guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Debbie. I'm a money coach, and today I'm in one of my favorite rooms of my house, my kitchen. When I ask you guys for ideas on topics that you want me to cover in order to help you save money, so many votes are about saving money in the kitchen. So the freezer is an area that I really want to cover today. And I have two videos on how to use your freezer to save money, and I'm going to link them at the end. But the freezer is such an important tool that I believe is underused when it comes to saving money on groceries. People normally think about meal planning, which absolutely, meal planning is a great way to save money. And I have a meal planning video, and I'm gonna link that one at the end too. And it's pretty much gives you step-by-step on how to do it. I use the freezer so many ways. So let's say that one night I'm making a pot of chili and my kids are gonna love my chili. Let's just say. And the chili pretty much flies in the house, and I have just enough of leftovers for one person. I know that if I take those leftovers and I put them in a container and I put them in the fridge, with everybody going in and out of the fridge, that small portion is going to get pushed to the back because it's not going to get used the next day, right? Because the next day, we're not going to take one portion for one person and split it up into 5 people? No. So what I do is immediately, instead of putting it in that container, unless I know I'm going to take it for lunch the next day or my husband is, I vacuum seal it, which vacuum seals, if you can get them on sale, it is a great investment, and you will see your investment come back as soon as possible with that vacuum sealer. Now, what I do is I take that chili, I put it in I cut up a small bag, I vacuum seal it, I label it. It's very important that you label everything that you put in that freezer, because I'm sure that if you've ever used your freezer for anything other than ice, you know that once in a while you'll find something and you're like, I have no idea what this is. I'm like, what is this thing? So I label it always with the name and the portion size. That way, if you're ever in a hurry and you think, oh, I've got enough chili for me and my husband, no, you don't. So I just put the measuring also on it. But I freeze it flat. Everything that I freeze in the freezer, I take the air out or vacuum seal it, and I freeze it completely flat like a book. And I put it either on a small cookie tray or on an empty spot in my freezer so it doesn't get bulky or lumpy on top of anything else. It freezes flat. And when you freeze it flat, afterwards, when you're going into your freezer again, you could take it and you can start stacking them like books. That way, it doesn't matter if you have a freezer like me, who I love my freezer, it's on the bottom tray, or if you have a small one that's on the side of your refrigerator. Either way, it's stacked, you're making the most of the space that you have, and you're saving money. The second way that I use my freezer to save money is by doing a weekly inventory of what's in the fridge. Like I mentioned before, if you live with anyone else in the house, you know that you put something in the fridge, you put it in the front so you can remember that you have it. And what happens? Little or big hands are in it, moving things around, looking for this, looking for that. They want to use this thing in the back. Next thing you know, what you have in the front has now been pushed completely to the back. And then what happens? It's going to die back there. I'm like, that's where things go to die. So every few days to maybe once a week, but I really try to do it every 3 to 4 days because it takes a minute. A minute can save you so much money in the kitchen. So once in a few days, I will go through just looking, move things around, just look to the back and see what you have. And if you have anything that you know is not going to get used, freeze it. I love freezing vegetables. If I get, for example, a package of celery and that celery starts to get a little flimsy, am I going to leave it in my vegetable drawer to die? No, I'm going to take it, I'm going to wash it, I'm going to chop it up, I'm going to lay it flat on a freezer bag or vacuum seal it, label it with the portion size. I use a measuring cup, a 1 cup, and I put it in there. So I don't go past 2 cups when it comes to vegetables, because if I'm going to throw it in a soup, I don't want to have to open the bag, use half, close the bag, and put it back in the freezer. So I will take that celery, chop it small, use a food processor if you have it, or one of those little zappers to chop it small so you don't have to spend the time to chop it if you don't have to. whatever you prefer, chop it to the size that you would normally use for a meal, and use a measuring cup. I would say don't go more than 2 cups. And then put it in a vacuum seal bag or a freezer bag. Take out all the air, lay it flat, label it 2 cups of celery, and put it in the freezer. Let me show you how I use my freezer to save money when it comes to vegetables. I have them right here. One time when I was doing a Walmart pickup, I asked for 2 jalapenos. For some reason, the person thought I meant 2 pounds of jalapenos. I was like, what am I gonna do with all these jalapenos? The exact same thing I just told you I did with the celery. So here it is. It's a little bit thawed out because I had it on my counter for a little bit, but I laid it flat, I labeled it, and it was like this in the freezer, and then stacked like books. I have 2 of these that I've been still using months later. Whenever I'm making anything that needs jalapeno, I put it in. I just made guacamole the other night. I took 3 tablespoons of jalapeno peppers, see how they're chopped really small, put it right in, and when I'm mixing it around, it defrosts. If you're putting it in a soup or a stew or anything else, it's just gonna defrost. No need to stick this in the microwave for anything. Take out what you need, because when it comes to chopped vegetables, if you know you're not gonna use all of it, like for example, jalapeno, my family would kill me if I made something that had so much of it. So I definitely would not use a vacuum seal for this. I use a zip bag for this one. I had bread in my pantry that was not looking so great. I knew I wasn't gonna get to it on time. I made breadcrumbs. And again, as you could tell, whole wheat breadcrumbs, right? Zip bag, because that way I can add it to any meal that requires breadcrumbs, and I'm not gonna use this whole thing, possibly. So I have this one in a zip bag. And what is it? Laid flat and frozen. I opened a can of mild green chilies. And again, my family doesn't like things spicy. I like things a little bit spicy. I'm still a weakling, especially compared to my mom. She was crazy with it. So what did I do with the rest of the can? Did I put the can in the fridge and let it die? No. Here you go. Mild green chilies, laid flat, frozen. Again, accessible. I can take out what I want because I planned ahead of time and I know I'm not gonna use all these in a meal. I planned it, zipped it, take what I need, the rest goes right back in the freezer, and I'm saving money. This is a big one. Bananas. Bananas go ripe too quickly in my kitchen. I not only freeze whole bananas in the peels for banana bread, but my family enjoys my banana ice cream, which they think is like real ice cream. Meanwhile, it's such a healthy recipe. I'm gonna share it soon. But here you go. Bananas. Now this one I can't lay flat because it's chunky, but I still tried my best, right? And I don't have to label this one because there's no way this is anything else but bananas. But you see my point. Zipper again, take out what I want, zip it closed, right back in the freezer. Now, this is my 3rd tip. I started accumulating a lot of vegetables in my freezer. And in the video that I link at the end, I share with you guys that I have a zip bag, one of the big gallon-sized bags, and anytime that I am chopping fresh vegetables for any meal, I take the scraps of them and I put them in the bag. For example, if I am peeling a carrot, I already scrubbed that carrot, so I know the carrot's clean, but I'm not using the skin of the carrot. That goes in the bag. Fresh garlic, when I chop it up, the ends goes in the bag. Broccoli, anything and everything that's a vegetable, except for kale. I don't freeze kale because it tastes bitter when you put it in anything. But everything else other than kale, when I have any vegetable scraps, I put it in that vegetable scrap bag, and that goes in my freezer as well. And then when the bag is full, all I do is put it in my crock pot, fill it up with water, set it to the highest amount of time, usually 8 to 10 hours, and I just let it cook all day, nothing else. When finally it's done, I let it cool for a little bit. I throw it through a strainer into a bowl, right? So I put my strainer in a bowl, I pour it in, so that way the strainer gets all of the scraps, and the most amazing vegetable broth you've just made by scratch, so you don't have to go out and buy it, is in this bowl. What do I do then? I put it in containers. I don't put it in bags, but I put it in used containers, like any kind of spaghetti sauce container. Even my candles, the Yankee candles with the jars, because they seal nicely, I put it in there. I portion it 2 to 3 cups per container, and I put that in the freezer. So the other day I was looking in the freezer because it started getting a little full, and I thought to myself, I'm gonna challenge myself, and I'm gonna challenge you too. I went through my freezer and I said to myself, what can I make with all of these vegetables and the broth that I had? I made vegetable soup, and it was my first vegetable soup that I've ever made. And again, I'm gonna look at the picture here. My family went crazy for it. Even the kids went crazy for it. They loved it. They loved it. And I got to clear out space in my freezer, use up the things that I had already frozen in there, and made room so that I can continue to do this process and continue to now have an extra meal that I didn't even plan from that freezer. So I challenge you, what meal can you make from your freezer? Leave it down below. Let's inspire each other to keep going. The next way that I use my freezer to save money is actually thinking outside the box. So canned beans is something that I try to avoid. And I know it's a convenience and it's wonderful. I know it is. But in my family, salt is something that I always try to reduce. And when you buy canned beans, it's preserved in salt. So, and again, no judgment. I've used canned beans when I'm in a time crunch or before I actually had the concern for salt in my family. But what's the difference between a bag of beans and a can? The bag of beans is so inexpensive compared to the can. It'll take you a few cans to get to 1 bag of beans in as far as volume in the exact amount of beans. But what do you do with a bag of beans, right? Do you have to always put it in rice? No. This is what I learned one time, and I've used this trick so often. I just literally take a bowl, put any bean, doesn't matter what it is, any dry bean, in the bowl, fill the bowl with water, leave it on your countertop overnight. The next day, I drain them. I just give them a rinse. I throw them in the crock pot, fill them with water so that maybe there's like a ½ inch of water on top of the beans. And I just let it cook for 4 to 6 hours on low, or I'm sure 3 hours on high. And afterwards, all you're looking for is the consistency that's in the cans. I've done no work. It sat on my countertop. I literally gave it a rinse and threw them in the crock pot. Like, that takes what, 15, 20 seconds, right? What I get out of it is bags and bags of cooked beans. Let me show you. This was a bag of black beans. It gave me 3 of these. As you can tell, 2 cups of black beans. These are completely cooked. These are completely frozen and laid flat in my vacuum sealer, see? Because I vacuum seal when the portion that's in the bag is completely gonna get dumped into one of my meals. That way it stays longer, fresher in the freezer. I can keep these in the freezer as long as I want. They're not gonna go bad. 1 bag gave me 3 of these. So 1 bag gave me 6 cups of beans, okay? So I labeled it and I laid it flat. Anytime I'm making a chili or any other recipe that I wanna throw these beans at, that's where it goes. Garbanzo beans, here's another one. Exactly the same thing, 2 cups. Frozen, vacuum sealed, laid flat. I don't have to defrost them at all. I throw them into the meal that I'm making. I might leave it on the counter for a few minutes so that it takes the chill off, but I throw them into any hot meal and it's as if you put a can of fresh beans in there. And the best thing is you're controlling the salt for your family. And you're saving money because, again, the bag of beans is a lot less expensive than a few cans, and there's no preservatives. And my last tip is one that I use so often. If you meal plan at all, what happens to leftovers? Again, they might get pushed to the back and die. Your family might enjoy a second version of dinner less from the night before, or you can reinvent them. I have a few videos on how to reinvent my leftovers, but I have reinvented things into a brand new meal. And the best part is, if you have picky eaters, they won't know that you did it. Here is the perfect example. I had made tacos on Tuesday night, right? And I had made rice the next day for another meal. Those 2 leftover ingredients were in my fridge. I had some peppers in my vegetable drawer that I was like, I need to make something with these peppers soon, or I'm gonna have to chop them up and again, put them in my freezer. So I had a little bit of mozzarella cheese that was left over from a pizza that I had taken the block and grated it, and again, vacuum sealed it, put it in the freezer. So what did I do? I added some sauce from a jar that I had in my pantry and a few frozen peas and corn that I just decided to throw in there. I made stuffed peppers. A quick meal that was healthy and delicious. Dinner was done in a half an hour, and it required almost no cooking. I cleaned out part of my fridge and my freezer, and I got a healthy meal for my family in minutes. Taking leftovers and reinventing them is a great way to, one, avoid the picky eaters and people that are just not fans of leftovers. So be creative and try to see how. Look in your fridge. What leftovers do you have? What other ingredients can you throw in them to make something completely different? One day I had leftover baked chicken. The kids were not going to have baked chicken the next day. I put it in my food processor. I made chicken enchiladas the next day because I had some flour tortillas, I had some cheese, and I made my own sauce from the vegetables that I had on hand. Or if you have a can of sauce in your pantry, boom, right there, chicken enchiladas, 20 minutes. And I used up everything that I had. Right? They had no idea that there was baked chicken in there at all. I've made chicken tacos. I made steak tacos from the fajitas that we made another night. I just, again, shredded it up more, put them in tacos. They loved it. They have no idea. Using up what you have can save you so much money. So I can't stress that enough. So much money. I hope these ideas inspire you to come up with additional ways that you can save money in your kitchen. And if you have any tips that you'd like to share, leave them in the comment section down below. Let's help each other, inspire each other so that we can continue to save money in one of my favorite rooms in the kitchen. I hope you liked this video and found it helpful. If you guys are looking for a money coach to help you change your relationship with your money and come up with creative ideas, because I've done it myself, and I help my clients look at things from a different perspective as well so that they can save money in different areas of their life. So if you're looking for someone to help you, I'm gonna leave a link to my calendar down below. Click it, give me a call, and let me know like how we can work together to change your relationship with your money and watch you succeed and achieve all the goals you'd like. If you like this video, please click the like button, share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and to click on that bell. And if you have friends that could use this video, please share them with them. I would really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.